Welcome to lecture 29. In this lecture we will discuss few alternate and innovative methods of financing urban infrastructure in the municipal governance. So, under this lecture we will discuss the concepts and the context of the value capture financing and the options of the value capture financing which we have to apply in urban areas, and we will also see some examples. In this week basically we have been discussing the financing and accounting matters of the municipality. So, we have discussed the traditional methods of the financing and the alternate methods of the financing. So, let us have a look what we discussed last few lectures. So, these are the diagram I showed you earlier. This is the alternative methods of financing infrastructure. Apart from the traditional method, there could be loan financing, private sector financing, or various kinds of financing, or there could be like financing from the capital market or from incentive funds or from the upfront users contribution in the project. Now, apart from the all these alternate methods of financing, there could be other financing methods like value capture financing. Now, what exactly is value capture financing and where it can be applied? I just try to give you some concept about value capture financing. Now, please see this diagram. If this is a conceptual diagram of a city, and if this is the city center, you know that if this is the CBD and if I try to put the distance and land value, the graph will be something like that. If this is the CBD, so in the CBD it is the maximum land value and slowly it will go. So, this is the city center and this is the basically the periphery of the city. So, this curve is called bed rent curve, which basically shows the relationship between the distance and land value like this, land value, and more the distance the lesser the land value, lesser the distance higher the land value. So, this is the mechanism how it works. Now, suppose in this situation, in this periphery I am doing a road infrastructure like this. So, this is a new road which is coming up there. So, this is a new road which the public authority is going to construct. So, in this situation the scenario will be like, if this is your CBD and this is your land value curve or bid rent curve, then because of this road, this is the location of road, because of this road the land value of the adjoining area of the road will be slightly higher and it will shift from the original location of the bid rent curve, and there will be additional increment of the land value. Right. So, this increment, and this is the road. I am just showing conceptually so that it is understandable. So, this is the normal bid rent curve or the land value curve, and because of the new infrastructure project the curve changes like this. Now, this increment of the land value of the adjoining land value, if I take a close look of this area, it will look like if this is the road, and this is the adjoining areas, the again the advantage of the land value increment will be highest here, slowly it is going down. So, if this is road, so it will be maximum in both side of the road maximum increment and then goes down. Now, the question is please think about that how we can utilize this increment of land value, because the road is constructed by the public agency, but the adjoining adjoining land of this road is owned by the private property or private owners, and they are getting the advantage of the enhancement of the land value. Now, if a share of this enhancement can be taken back to the public exchequer to fund or to fund that particular infrastructure, in this case it is the road, that mechanism can be called as a value capture financing. You might have seen that whenever we make any new roads like a national highway or state highway or district roads or major urban road which is passing through the periphery or in the internal side, if it is a greenfield project or is a brownfield project, the both side of the road they get maximum benefit of the land value enhancement. This is just one example. This type of example can be applicable for any type of development where a new development comes. For example, apart from the road, whenever there is a construction of a new terminals like say metro rail terminals or the new railway stations or new transport corridor, both side of the corridor and both side of the terminal gets some added advantage and some extra valuation of their land and property. So, how the government department and the local government they can leverage or they can take the share of that land value increment for financing particular infrastructure, that is called land value capturing. Traditionally in India we have not been able to explore this land value capturing or the value capture financing in a broader term in true sense. In most of the cases you might have seen that we have built the infrastructure, we have done several investment in the infrastructure, we have done transport and transport corridors, we have made the treatment plants, major universities, major hospital project, but the land value increment because of that particular physical or social infrastructure which has caused surrounding that land area, that has been taken by the developer or the private property. So, it is the inability of the government organization or the government department to take the advantage of the land value capture or the value capture financing. Now, let us see what are the options available in this land value capture and how different those options are. So, first will be the land value tax. The land value tax is basically the increment of land value of any land value. Now, it is different from the property tax, because property tax is a general tax which is taken by the municipality and which can be amount could be fixed by the municipality for a fixed amount every year, but land value can increase due to several reasons, and for that reason that additional value or some share of that value can be taken by the municipality. Second is the fees for changing of the land use. Suppose some land parcel is prescribed as per your land use plan or land use development and control plan as residential, and within that plan it is also recommended that there could be 10% of other mixing of land use. For example, it can be commercial, it can be institutional, etc. Now, the owner wishes to develop little more than 10%, that is 20% or 30%. The first question is that will you allow this additional other uses of the land, or you do not allow. If you allow this non-residential land uses, then on what ground and what is the condition and what is the fees for changing that land use. So, first of all this kind of provision has to be there in your land use plan or land use control plan. So, therefore, your land use and development control plan LUDCP or land use plan what we have discussed earlier, that should have the provision of this, and then we can charge some amount for changing of the land use. So, therefore, one is the value land value tax and second is the land the changing of the land use. Then third is the betterment levy. The betterment levy is the exactly what we discussed as an example in the beginning, that when government department construct some public infrastructure, for example, it can be road, it can be terminals, it can be schools, it can be hospitals, etc., or it can be commercial center or any other, or like petrol pump, any public amenities or infrastructure. Now, based on this construction of the public infrastructure, the neighboring land gets the benefit of those location, and because of that government can levy an amount of the from the surrounding plot owners as a betterment levy. So, it is the share of the land value or share of the value addition due to some public infrastructure in a given area. The next is the like development charges. The development charges is basically it is charges, this charges is mandate for the developer. So, whenever there is a developer which is developing particular land or infrastructure, and because of that development there are some impact in the environment, Now, there are some impact which is not reversible and which is not allowed. So, as per the environmental laws, if this impact is reversible and if this impact is can be taken care of by several intervention, then the private developer will be asked to take actions and interventions for taking care of the impact of the development, and also they will pay a development charge to the urban local body. In some areas it is called as a developer exaction also, exaction. So, this is the charge which is charged by the urban development authority or the urban government to the developer for developing a particular infrastructure or developing a land. Third is that the public authority can also charge some fees and they can play with FAR, how they can take additional revenue or additional charges because of the FAR, that I try to explain. You might have heard about the term transfer of development right. The provision of the transfer of development right, in short it is TDR, basically enables you to transfer your FAR from one zone of the city to another zone within some terms and condition and some restriction. Now, the question is why people will shift the permissible FAR from one zone to another zone. The basic reason is being land value. Maybe zone A is having less land value and zone B could be with higher land value. So, I may like to shift some amount of the FAR from zone A to zone B, and if the moment I take a decision to transfer that land value from one zone to another zone, the public authority can charge an amount that is called transfer of development rights fees. That is very popular in India also, in some of the states including Maharashtra, and then sometimes we also provide additional FAR. Suppose there is a base FAR of suppose say 2.0 and an additional maximum up to 2.5. So, that means 2.0 plus 0.5. So, this 0.5 becomes the additional FAR with additional payment. So, this kind of provisions also can be framed under the local bylaws, local rules and regulation by the municipal corporation. In some of the states like Maharashtra, they have been trying this TDR and additional FAR both. Then there are few more methods like vacant land tax. In many cities, especially the new townships, you might have seen that people buy the land, but they do not construct the house, and for years the land is buying vacant. Now, if a land is vacant, then the surrounding infrastructure which you have created, that infrastructure is unused, and as a matter the purpose of the development is not fulfilled. That is why the urban development authority, they also charge vacant land tax for the vacant land beyond some time period. Another method is the tax increment financing. The objective of the tax increment financing is that when in a inner city or any part of the city, due to some congestion and some adverse effect, you are trying to renew the area, or you are trying to regenerate the area by giving additional boosting of the financing in the infrastructure projects, and in that case your tax this could be your basic value or of tax, and this could be the increment. This is time now and this is for the future. Now, after, if this part of the increment, due to the renewal, if that can be taken in part as an advance or during the process of the urban renewal or urban regeneration, that could be termed as tax increment financing, and government time to time they announce and notify some zones or wards as a TIF zones. In US it is a very common and very popular method of the value capture financing. Then we have land based tools, how we assemble the land. We discussed thoroughly the land pooling scheme and the land acquisition both. In land acquisition we acquire land compulsorily, and in land pooling scheme we pool land, we develop, and then it is shared. So, in this two method also, the moment we acquire or pool the land and we for some public infrastructure, the value of that land also become higher, and in this method also we can share the value increment or value enhancement of that particular land, because both the cases the basic value of the land is enhanced due to laying of the new infrastructure. Especially in the land pooling scheme, from the raw land to the developed land, the enhancement of the land value is shared between the public authority, between the owner, and also between the developer. Whereas in the land acquisition, the land value or the enhancement of the land value is shared between the public authority and the owner under the current the present Land Acquisition Act. Now, there are many, but I have just shown you some of the basic methods. Now, what are the difference between all value capture financing? Let us have a look. So, under 4 categories we will discuss that for what, that means who what is the reason basically for this mechanism, then who pays, who is the funding, or who is the client here, or who is the end user of this product or all this or this tool, and why they are paying, against what, is it a land or it is some right or infrastructure, etc., and it is executed by whom. These are the questions we are going to ask. So, land value tax is basically for value increment, who pays, basically any landowner will pay, individual against the land and in some cases also property. Executed by, it can be executed by urban local bodies or development authority. The change of land use is basically we are giving the additional amount of money because the desired land use. Who pays? Here also it is paid by landowner, in some cases developer, right, and it is given against the approval of land use based on land use and development control plan for that city. It is also executed by the urban local bodies or development authority. Then the betterment levy is levied or charged due to the value increment due to some infrastructure. Who pays? That surrounding landowner against the public infrastructure, and it is also executed by the urban local bodies, development authorities. In some cases it can be executed by some other organization like special purpose vehicle, like metro rail authorities. They can develop the metro rail and they can also act as a organization in this purpose. And development charges is given for development of infrastructure and its possible impact. Basically it is charged from developers and against the development of land plus infrastructure. It is executed by the development authority. In some cases it can be urban local bodies also. Then TDR is basically the FAR. So, basically TDR and extra FAR both are applicable for the FAR as a tool. So, FAR gives you more buildability. So, it is paid by either developer or owner. It is paid against additional FAR and executed by development authority or urban local bodies. The vacant land tax is basically paid or given for keeping land vacant. It is just opposite to the development. In the development charges we are charging for developing the land or infrastructure. Here we are charging for keeping the land vacant, and it is paid by also the landowner against the land or plot and executed by the development authority. Tax increment finance is also paid because of the increment due to renewal. It is paid by the landowner against the tax increment in that zone, and it can be executed by the urban local bodies or the local government. Land pooling is basically the enhancement of value of the land. Here it is paid by landowner against the land plus infrastructure, and it can be executed by urban local bodies. In some cases it is also development authority. Now, you can see that the whole options or whole categories of the value capture financing have different connotation for the target group, the reason, the reference for which they are being charged and executed by. So, these are the difference between the various value capture financing tools. Now, let us see that some comparison. This is taken from the value capture financing policy from Smart City Mission. Here you can have a look that some of the value capture financing, like say land use change, then betterment levy, development charge, and then additional FSI or FAR, then land acquisition, land pooling, these are one time charge, it is taken before the development, whereas the land value tax, these are recurring. TDR also based on, it can be recurring or one time. Vacant land tax is recurring, tax increment is for a recurring for some time till the project is complete. So, these are the difference based on the recurring or the one time tax. In the right side in this column we have shown that some of the tax is based on the area based, some of the taxes are area and the project based, like betterment or the change of land use and the TDR, all these, and the land acquisition, whereas some of the tools are only area based, for example development charge or the vacant land tax or the tax increment financing. So, these are the difference in kind of a scale or the frequency of the charging between the value capture financing methods. Now, let us see some of the example. In Bandra Kurla complex in Mumbai, what they did after completion, after the project, these are the few information about the project. I feel that you have heard about this project, still I mention the location of this project was through the it started 2006 to 2007 by Mumbai Metropolitan Regional Development Authority through the auction. It was done through auction. So, this amount is also given in this chart, and this whatever price MMRD kept as a base price, 10 times of the total capital spending in was there as a gain from this transaction, and I tell you the what happened exactly. Now, basically this Bandra Kurla complex is a reclaimed and marshy land in the Bandra Kurla road, located at the good advantage point. MMRD had developed the BKC site and collected annual rent and other development fees from the developers. Then it transformed their system of financing infrastructure is in 2003. From 2003 they started applying all these methodologies, then adopted long term leasing of land over 80 years to private developer, allowed them to conduct high density development based on some terms and condition, and over the past couple of decades the price per square meter has increased almost 20 times. This is some of the example that how it has increased from 19, you can see the how the average price has increased for this Bandra Kurla complex. Now, what they did, basically they played with the FSI, they provided additional FSI here, FSI for the residential area and also additional FSI for the commercial area. Because of that, the developer they tried to bid the project or bid the land basically with a very high quotation or very high quote. That is why MMRDA got a very advantage of getting additional revenue through this case. So, key success factor was that involving the private players, here in this case private public partnership, and MMRD earmark the individual and the land parcel for specific development purpose, then they auction the land and supply has been generated in harmony with the demand through the phased release of the land. This is important because whenever there is a demand for the residential, they generated residential plot and auction that. Whenever there is a requirement of the commercial or the institutional plot, that was kind of auction. So, these are the kind of appropriateness during the decision making during the whole land transaction by a development authority. So, through this method they finance several infrastructure including one new metro rail system. They co-financed the road construction is Greater Mumbai, another 23 kilometer Trans Harbour Bridge which will connect Mumbai city, and not only that they also tried to connect the Mumbai using the Mumbai urban transport project. So, this kind of project they finance through the value capture financing from which was available after the Bandra Kurla complex development during the post 90s and early 2000 and that decade. So, I hope that you got some idea about the value capture financing. Now, the applications and your role in municipality will be to identify the potential of value capture financing. For that you need to identify the land status in terms of vacant land owned by private, owned by public, then built up, then within built up there could be that developable or fully built up. That means they have consumed the FAR provided for that particular plot. So, in the developable, that is they have consumed part FAR or like that. And also you see that what is the future land which can be used as a green field development or that. And apart from the land, basically you have to also see the other property and also public infrastructure which you are going to build in next 10 to 20 years. So, based on these, now here from the land status, if it is a private land not built, definitely you can use a land vacant land tax. The private land which is vacant you can use as to construction of the public infrastructure. The built up land which is developable, which is consumed part FAR, you can definitely play with FAR, or you can redensify. Even in the fully built up area you can redensify if the infrastructure is permitting. So, that discussion I had already in some of the lectures, I am not going into that. So, this redensification is possible by enhancement of FAR, and that also FAR can be saleable. For the future land, if you find some greenfield area, in the greenfield area you can try to develop township or large campuses and then take a share of the value enhancement from that project, and from the property you can definitely try the betterment levy. If you do any public infrastructure, definitely you can charge betterment levy and tax increment financing as well for the renewal project. So, here your role, but definitely a political willingness is required to do this, and also technical expertise is required. So, here this exercise of value capture financing is basically, in one side it is a technical exercise, secondly it is a political and administrative thrust is required, and third is you need to develop your local rules and regulation based on some overall guidelines which is given time to time by the government of India. So, with these few words I would like to conclude today's lecture. So, next lecture we will discuss about the another very important public financing possibility, that is a public private partnership in the urban governance. So, today we discussed basically the value capture financing mechanism. Today we told you that apart from the conventional and the alternate sources of the revenue, there could be value capture financing in various public projects and private projects. There are various methods of value capturing from the public infrastructure. It can be a land value tax, it can be a vacant land tax, it can be a betterment tax, it can be a development charges, it can be a charges due to the land pooling and land acquisition, it can be a charges due to tax increment of the particular zone. So, this kind of the value capture financing is possible to be explored in your city as well. Therefore, you can go through the document and the reading materials and then you can apply. Definitely, I hope you got some idea about the value capture financing. Thank you very much.